This is Free Talk Live. We're launching into the second hour. You can take control here. Bring up whatever's on your mind. Toll-free number, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. First hour, we were talking about speeding tickets. And one cop, a former cop, says he's got a foolproof method to beat speeding tickets, which was somewhat misleading. Because really, it's more of a long-term strategy. That's what not taking the plea deal is. It's a long-term strategy that requires multiple people to participate in order for it to be maximum successful. The idea being, of course, if you're given some sort of speeding ticket, parking ticket, whatever kind of non-violent crime, alleged crime, possession of marijuana, that you don't take the plea deal. And this is something that we've been advocating, or I've been advocating on this program for a long time, number of years here on Free Talk Live. So it's nice to see the idea cropping up in other circles. In this case, Barry Cooper.
That's why you're being so kind to this guy that basically had this big fat lie of a headline.
Well, Barry Cooper, I think, wrote the headline, actually. And it is how to fight a speeding ticket to some extent.
No, it's how to beat speeding tickets.
Now, the title does say there how to fight a speeding ticket, not how to beat it, right? So,
Yeah.
All right, so this is how to fight a speeding ticket. It doesn't say that you're going to win.
Of course not.
You know, it says this is how you spend an extraordinary amount of time clogging up the court system, hopefully so that other people will possibly do it, and if not, then you will thereby get convicted and spend a bunch of money and a bunch of time feeding the state.
There's evidence to suggest that this has some success, and what I mean by that is that there's been folks who've gone down to the police department and they have seen, or the parking department, I guess, and they've seen people and have heard from people who've said that they have gone down to challenge their parking ticket and have had it dismissed out of hand. And that, you know, those of us who do Robin Hooding here in Keene, New Hampshire, which is rescuing people from getting parking tickets in the first place by putting coins in expired meters prior to the arrival of said parking enforcer, those of us who participate in this would like to believe that the reason why they are going ahead and dropping charges for people is because enough people are challenging them to where they don't really want to spend the time to try to convict these people. That if it's a free stater or liberty activist in the area, they'll go ahead and go through with the trial just to try to teach us a lesson. But if it's an average person they don't recognize going in to challenge the parking ticket, they may not actually end up going to trial.
Well, what happened to me was I decided to fight a parking ticket.
This was what, 2-3 years ago?
No, this was several years ago.
Several years.
And you know, nothing happened. They dropped it against me. I wrote a blog post for Free Keene. I think the only blog post I have ever written for freekeene.com. And you know,
as
so
a guest blogger, you're not actually a blogger there.
I think I certainly was at one point a blogger at freekeene.com.
Okay, God,
it was very early on.
Ago.
Yes, but you know, you and I decided that it is probably best for everybody if I wasn't.
Okay.
So yeah, and then the next time, so I wrote a blog. Hey, you don't have to pay those things. Just fight them in court, and then they'll drop the charges. Why would they take a $5 fee to court? And I got some flack about it. You know, some friends are like, you shouldn't do that. You'll destroy the system. You know, that kind of thing. You know, like, yeah, what do you think I'm here for?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. You know? So then you know, the next time I got a parking ticket, you can better believe they took me to court. They actually asked me for a continuance, and I said, sure, I'll give you a continuance, because otherwise they would have had to drop it. But I'm like, sure, I'll do that. And then, you know, they took me in there. They wouldn't let me say anything. Everything's an objection, you know, and it was really, really kind of funny. But as a result, you know, their little laws say that I may not allow anyone, you know, whatever. There's several words that they said allow, you know, help or facilitate somebody to use my vehicle to park into in a parking spot illegally. So I put a note in the vehicle. It says that I do not allow, facilitate, or you know, permit you to park illegally in this vehicle, even if you borrow it from me. So therefore, then I can bring in this piece of paper that I have notarized from 2009 or whatever, and not notarized, but witnessed in 2009. I can say, look, I had this piece of paper in my vehicle. I did not permit them to park in that. I am not responsible for the parking. You must prove that I parked that vehicle in that spot. Go ahead and prove it now, please.
But you haven't gotten a ticket since
Never.
then?
Well, I got one and I paid it, and then you were complaining. Oh, I can't believe you are destroying liberty. I'm like, you know what? $5, I just don't care anymore.
Let's go to Robert. He's in Bellows Falls, and that's how they get you, Mark Edge. Robert, you're on the air on Free Talk Live.
Hey, Ian, remember we tried that this year with the Key Court there. It was a really bad, snowy day out. You were on my way up to come get me, and I called the courthouse, and I said, are you going to be open today? It's a really bad storm out. And they said, well, we're open, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I called back about 20 minutes after that, and, I said, are we still going to be open to go to court today? And they said, oh, we didn't even know you were coming. We thought you weren't coming to court today.
Interesting. Yeah, so, I mean, I would look at trying to cancel one's, day of court. I would, try to make that telephone call. I don't see any reason not to just keep on kicking the can down the road as far as these charges go.
Well, one reason to not do it, if you're not dealing with just a piddly ticket, is because you'll be on bail conditions for a longer period of time. If you've been arrested for something,
that's a reason.
That's a reason that you do want to go to trial relatively quickly. So that's something. But Robert, so what you're saying is that when you called, they thought you weren't going to come in because you'd already called them once, asking about the times or asking if they were open. They presumed you weren't going to come in?
I don't even know how they got the impression that I wasn't going.
It sounds like they jumped to the conclusion. I mean, they figured you'd called to ask if they were open. Maybe they just jumped to the conclusion that you weren't going to come in.
Did you give your name when you called the first time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Robert, anything else you want to share tonight?
Yeah, the last bit of part of this I want to share is that, I signed up to get a public defender. And, of course, 2 days into this thing, I changed my mind and I hired an attorney. Skip forward about 8 months later, I get a bill from, the Department of
ripping people off.
Exactly.
Public defender.
Bill for $5.
Well, now wait a minute. Did you ever even meet with the public defender? Did they ever provide you with any service?
I don't even know the guy. Never met him or anything. They sent me a bill for $800.
Wow. Just because you signed the form saying you consented to the public defender. Thanks for the call, Robert. I appreciate hearing from you.
Imagine that. I mean, government taking money from you without providing a service. I mean, that's unheard of.
And the service, I mean, God has blessed the public defenders who really do give it their best. I believe those people exist out there. They're trying inside a really bad system, trying their best to help a large group of people that they can only give so much help to because of,
when they first start, perhaps. I think those guys get burned out real quick. And are like, forget this.
The incentives are just, all mixed up for public defenders. And, their incentive is to not work, to look like a lawyer and, just tell people things in order to get them to leave them alone.
Well, but to give them credit, I guess, to some of them that deserve credit where credit is due. For instance, Rich Paul, our friend who is in jail now, I thought his public defender did a decent job with his case, most recently with the violation of probation. I thought the things he was arguing in court were pretty well done. It looks like he'd done some research. He didn't just ignore the case until the last moment or anything like that.
I'm gonna go ahead and agree with you there. I thought that it did appear to me that he was paying attention and knew what was the details of the case were and was familiar with the law and actually made an effort. Whereas I've dealt with public defenders in New York where it's all it is slow walking you to a plea deal.
Yep.
It's nothing other than that.
But that's what a lot of private attorneys do. I mean, I've seen private attorney after private attorney charge somebody $2,000-$3,000 to hold their hand right through the plea deal process and act like they've done them a favor.
Oh yeah, the last time I got arrested, I mean, it was exactly that. He's like, "Hey, just accept this deal," and I was like, that I've been through the system before, right? I'm not falling for this. What did I pay you $5,000 for? To ruin my life? I don't think so.
Exactly. Matt's in Jersey City, New Jersey. You're on Free Talk Live, Matt.
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hey, go ahead with your thoughts.
I just want to say I listen every day. I'm a pretty new listener, and I really love the show.
Thanks.
I always identified with the non-aggression principle. I just never realized that it was called NAP until I heard your show. I wanted to talk about the fact that you pointed out, I forget who pointed it out, but 20 tickets were not issued because you took your ticket to court.
Yeah, you're talking about the parking ticket trial. This was Concord, New Hampshire, a few years ago, where I took a $10 parking ticket to court, and of course spent 2 hours in the car just driving there and back. And
how much do you think your time's worth per hour?
How much money in gas? I don't know, probably I can charge people like $50-$60 an hour for audio production work. So spending time doing that, and then getting that satisfaction of knowing that I helped save 20 people from getting parking tickets that morning, it just warmed my heart.
Well, I don't think your heart should be so warm. I mean, there was another person out on the street giving tickets that day. It wasn't as if they only have one parking enforcement person.
Well, there may or may not have been another person out. In places like Keene, New Hampshire, if you've got one parking officer on, they may only have one officer on at any given point in time. Whether they would schedule the other one during the time when the one is in court is another question. But regardless, they certainly couldn't put them both out on the streets at that time. So the woman would have been, she had told me in court, the parking enforcer, she would have been on the streets had she not been sitting in the courtroom.
Was she the only person? Was that a question that you had asked? Was she the only person?
No, I didn't ask that question.
Available at that point in time?
But even if there was a second person who was out there, then that would still be one fewer of them on the streets.
In theory, sure, but I mean, in a lot of cases, I think I take the guy's point though that he's saying that look, the state will replace these people. Right?
Well, in a place like New York City, it's not going to make a difference, right? There's probably 1,500 traffic officers on the streets there, and that's not going to make a difference. But in a place like Keene, New Hampshire, where there are 2 parking enforcement officers, in Concord, I don't imagine has more than 4 or 5 or something like that. You can really have an impact.
Yeah, certainly. And if it was happening on a regular basis, that you've got both of these parking officers, and now we've got 5 different traffic parking ticket trials. Well, obviously, you can drain those resources rather rapidly in a place like Keene, whereas in New York, it's just they'll just hire more people to do it.
Again, numbers matter, and that's why the idea of migrating people for liberty, the Free State Project, Shire Society, these are ideas of drawing people here to New Hampshire so we can get active together. Fact is, numbers make a huge difference, and when the numbers of the status is similar, at least the numbers of the police are similar to the numbers of the activists, that starts to become a real game changer. I mean, you get a situation like right now out in Manchester where they have more people, I think more activists are coming out to the DUI checkpoints that are happening out there than the police have out at the DUI checkpoint. And you're turning the tables with those kind of numbers.
Certainly, when you come to a place like this and you can actually rival the forces of the government agents in question at any particular turn, there's a lot to be said about that, and that's one of the things that I love about being here. Certainly, that we can actually identify who all the police officers are here in Keene, whereas to try to do that in Manhattan is just simply not going to happen.
Go ahead, Matt.
I got it. That makes a lot more sense now that you put it into context.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.